Welcome back to the channel. Joshua Zirkzee is fully focused on United following rumours of a move back to Italy. Manchester United have held secret talks with managers as they start a contingency for if things don't improve under Erik ten Hag. We've got a Xavi update. Alphonso Davies is a concrete option for United as they make inquiries with his camp, midfield targets, and some transfer news to go through with you and a rundown of all the latest Manchester United news and transfer news that will keep you right up to date with everything. Welcome to Man United Review. My name's Jamie. Before we get into it, please smash a like on the video. Apologies for the sound of my voice. I have an absolutely stinking cold. Let's jump straight into it. So let's kick off with... There's been loads of noise over the last kind of week or so regarding Joshua Zirkzee and potentially a move back to Italy, which I have been saying you're not coming from the most credible sources, mainly coming from Italian journalists and Italian outlets. I've been saying take it with a pinch of salt. So Fabrizio Romano firstly has said that Joshua Zirkzee and Juventus rumours are not true. He is fully focused on United and the club are more than happy to wait for him to develop the same as they did with Højlund. That came from Fabrizio Romano, so there's no, more credible source out there. Maybe David Ornstein, then Romano, kind of confirming that those stories were BS. Florian Plettenberg, who's a good source for, especially for German media and stuff, saying that Joshua Zirkzee believes in his qualities and wants to establish himself and sees himself as the number one striker. Rumours about his intention to leave the club are fake news. So there we go. All those stories from Italian journalists, not the most credible sources, kind of, we can just throw in the bin. Two very credible sources saying exactly the opposite, and that's the sort of news we need to wait for regarding Joshua Zirkzee. So there is absolutely zero chance of him going anywhere for anyone that might have believed any of those stories. Now, one of the other stories that was doing the round this week was regarding the manager situation, and specifically Xavi. Now, there's been some more stories backed up by another credible source regarding the manager situation and the Xavi situation as well. So let's go through all of that. So Manchester United have held secret talks with a number of managers over replacing Erik ten Hag. Manchester United spoke with Xavi 10 days ago after a four-man delegation led by Omar Barada flew to Barcelona. Thomas Frank is once again under strong contention at Manchester United. Ruben Amorim and Edin Terzic are on United's list of potential manager targets. So again, that came from Chris Wheeler. Now, Chris Wheeler's got good connections and can be quite a reliable source. Whether he's credible or not is a different situation. But he also put the story out last week regarding Xavi. However, a more credible source has kind of backed up his story. So, and this was the Muppeteers, and I think the Muppeteers are a really credible source when it comes to United. We're saying that Ruud is high on the list for an interim if it happens. Terzic and Xavi are viewed as good options. Are not viewed as good options for the long term, but they could be looking at those potentially as interim. Would cost about 10 to 20 million to get Thomas Frank mid-season. I think it would cost around the same for Amorim as well from some of the research that I've done. And then the Muppeteers also confirmed that Sir Jim agreed with a lot of things in the meeting, such as succession planning, thinks it will be Frank or Amorim, slightly informed opinion. So what the kind of Muppeteers was effectively saying, which was, corroborating the Chris Wheeler article, is that he thinks that there is some truth in that story and that United are looking at succession plans. And when you think about it logically, there's four managers on that list. Two of them potentially could be that are available now. Xavi and Terzic have not got jobs, so they could come in straight away. The other two managers are more for in the summer. So it does look like United are looking at kind of both options, whether they would get Xavi or Terzic in potentially as an interim, because there are stories that Ruud might not want the interim role anyway, because he doesn't want to be seen as stabbing Ten Hag in the back. So my kind of take on that whole situation is that United are just contingency planning. That's what it looks like they're doing. They're looking at options. They're kind of putting the feelings out, having a chat with Xavi, having a chat with Terzic, two managers that are available right now, should they decide to make a decision and want to bring in somebody or one of those two. They can do it tomorrow if they want to. Or they could potentially be looking at Ruud van Nistelrooy's interim and then bringing in maybe Thomas Frank or Ruben Amorim in the summer. They seem to be the two kind of names that the Muppeteers were saying that he's got kind of, slightly informed options as those two. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. And then that's not the only kind of updates. So Ben Jacobs, who can be quite credible. I call him a hit and miss journalist, though, personally, because I do think he's sometimes right, sometimes wrong. We're saying that Manchester United have had contact with Xavi through intermediaries as part of succession planning. So there's a few more credible sources kind of coming out saying that story, actually, there might be something in it. It's not quite an Ornstein or a Romano. However, there's no smoke without fire. And if you've got more kind of credible sources confirming the same thing, then there might be something in that. Let me know what you think about that in the comments. Now let's go through some transfer news. So one of the other players we've been heavily linked with over the last few days, or probably the last week, is Alphonso Davies. Manchester United's interest in Alphonso Davies is becoming more concrete. United have been gathering extensive information on Davies for several days and made an informal inquiry to his camp in recent months. At present, there are no new talks about a contract extension with Bayern Munich. Davies could leave the club as a free agent next summer. Now, that came from Florian Plettenberg. He's really credible when it comes to German football and specifically Bayern Munich kind of news, suggesting that story, again, might have some credibility on it, as much as I don't believe it, because I do think that he's going to go to Real Madrid. There's no smoke without fire. We've had Christian Falk and Plettenberg kind of saying that actually, maybe there is something in that. I mentioned this in the video the other day. I think we'd be stupid to not try to get Davies. Whether we will get him or not is another question. I think personally he's going to end up at Real Madrid. But, to win the race, you've got to be in the race. So at least we're kind of making inquiries and trying. So it does seem that that's a developing story that we need to keep an eye on. And then the other kind of department we're looking to strengthen is the midfield. So we brought you news the other day about Mastantuono. Manchester United have held initial talks with Franco Mastantuono's agent. The player is interested in joining United. River Plate want an expensive sale, and Mastantuono to stay on loan with them for another 6 months or a year. So that came from Argentinian journalists, but reposted by more credible sources, because I don't know the credibility of those, but it was posted by more credible outlets. So I'm going to assume fairly credible sources. Again, linking us with Mastantuono, potentially with a loan back for another 6 months. That wouldn't be maybe the end of the world or a bad shout, because at least he's playing football. That would be, an interesting option. And then another player we've been linked with heavily, Chris Rigg. Manchester United could be set to make a move. A 17-year-old Sunderland midfielder, Chris Rigg. United are closely monitoring Rigg and see him as the type of player who represents the amount of potential that United Chiefs want to bring into their squad. That came from Ben Jacobs. And Sphere Nipan remains as one of United's potential signings in 2025 as the club continue to focus on a full refresh of midfield options. That came from Dean Jones, who's not the most credible, but is can be a decent source sometimes. And then also Manchester United is set to make 2 key midfield signings, with one expected during the January transfer window and the other planned to come in before next season gets underway. It's understood that among the players being closely monitored by the Manchester United recruitment team are Morten Friedrup, who I bought you the other day. He's dubbed as the next Kante. Morten Humeland, we've been linked with for a while. Sphere Nipan. Ricardo Rios is another option, and a player that we've been linked with a few times. Chris Rigg, we've just spoke about. Each of these players represent the type of potential the Red Devils are aiming to bring into their squad as they continue to prioritise building a team for the future. Again, not come from the most credible source, but those names are midfielders that we have been linked with by more credible sources. The Muppeteers were also kind of confirming that they're some of the names that we are linked with as well, who is quite a decent source when it comes to, or a very credible source, when it comes to United news. So some interesting developments there. You'll have to let me know what you think in the comments. What do you think about the manager situation? Do you think it's right that we are looking at contingencies? How do you feel about Xavi, Terzic, Frank, or potentially Amran being our new manager if things do continue to go sideways with Ten Hag? What do you think about the midfield options? Mastantuono, Nipan, Chris Rigg are definitely three names that we're heavily linked with. The Alphonso Davies one for me is really kind of mad, because I don't see that happening. but they are credible sources that are bringing it out. So, you know, you can only go off with what you're being told in the media. Let me know what you think about all of that below. Get involved in the comments. I enjoy reading them. That is you all up to date with the latest Manchester United news and transfer news. Smash a like on the video on your way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. See you in the next one.